Return to the open meeting tonight. Get started with agenda item number 5, our pledge. Mr. Wheeler.
So these three Lovejoy High School students have been selected as Young Arts Award winners with distinction. It's a huge honor, and it sets these artists up for an opportunity at the country's highest art prize for high school artists, the Presidential Scholar in the Arts Award. So this is a new, that came on for me. This is a new record for our school. In the past, previously we've only ever had 2 students selected for this honor in a single year. We actually had 4 this past year. One of the students graduated, Lane Beller, who was also recognized. As winners with distinction, all of these students will be flown to Miami for a full week where they will have the opportunity to study with some of the top working artists in their field and join the alumni of all past Young Arts winners. This award also makes them eligible for yearly grants, internships, and residencies that are only open to these artists. All right. Awesome. Take it away, guys. And they've been practicing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And now for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Super awesome to have that. Thank you for that, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. Item 7 tonight is public comments related to the December 16, 2024 agenda items.
Yes, sir. President Owens, we have one public comment by the name Joel Trainer regarding agenda item number 3. Prior to that, could I please read the statement? And then I'll go ahead and pull up the timer. Okay. The Board of Trustees encourages public comment. All public comment at a board meeting other than a regularly scheduled meeting should be limited to agenda items posted for the meeting. By signing up to provide public comment at a board meeting, you're acknowledging and accepting the procedures for public comment available online at lovejoyist.net. Any individual seeking to speak during the public comment session of a regular board meeting must complete and submit the public comment card no later than 15 minutes prior to the designated start time provided on the meeting notice. Public comment cards must be completed in their entirety with accurate and truthful information and must designate whether the speaker is speaking on a specific agenda item. Failure to designate an agenda item relevant to the speaker's comments will result in the classification of a public comment as a non-agenda item comment to be heard at a later time in the meeting. Public comment cards are only applicable to the meeting in which they are completed and submitted by the established deadline. Each individual will have one opportunity to speak to share their comments for the Board of Trustees, not multiple opportunities per individual agenda items. If a speaker is not present when his or her name is called, the speaker forfeits the right to speak at the meeting. All speakers will be limited to no more than 3 minutes, and the presiding officer reserves the right to reduce the number of minutes per speaker to no less than 1 minute per speaker in order to maintain an effective meeting management. The speakers will be recognized in the order in which each person signs up. If there are more speakers in the time allotted for public comment, the amount of time per speaker may be reduced as determined appropriate by the Board of Trustees. If time does not allow for you to speak at public comment, the Board of Trustees may allot additional time for public comment or defer specific agenda items for review at a subsequent meeting in an effort to allow more public comment as determined necessary by the board. The public comment card will not be maintained from one meeting to the next and is only applicable to the meeting on which the date it was submitted. If you have a specific concern related to an employee of the district or a specific student issue, you're encouraged to utilize the district's grievance procedures and board policies, DGBA local, F&G local, and GF local, or applicable grievance processes. Each grievance procedure allows for an individual to redress grievances with the board. All relevant policies are available online. Disruptive behavior will not be tolerated in the meeting. If after the provision of a single warning, the disruptive behavior continues, the disruptive individual may be escorted out of the meeting by the district officials and/or law enforcement. It is a criminal offense for a person with intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting, to substantially obstruct or interfere with the ordinary conduct of a meeting by physical action or verbal utterance. The Board of Trustees appreciates your active participation in the school district. With that said, pull up the timer.
Roderick, we're going to use my timer.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and start now. Good, Joel.
Okay. Good evening. Most of you guys know me. My name is Joel Trainer, and both of my boys have gone through the Lovejoy Independent School System. We've been up here since 2012. We moved from Dallas, and I've been coming to board meetings ever since. There have always been talks about having enough money for teachers, and how do we attract more student families? I believe what has changed is actual leadership. In the past, Lovejoy was able to pick and choose who they wanted to hire. Not anymore. These facts are coming directly from the administration. Why does someone pick teaching? And I can think of many reasons why I would not pick teaching. But the main reason why they love it because they love nurturing and they just love helping people out. I've never heard anybody else say they can't wait to get in the teaching world so they can make a great living. And the reason is because they don't. I have reached out to other districts since 2014, and money is not the number one, nor is it the number two problem of why teachers are leaving and exiting the industry. It's based on being valued, do I matter, and does the administration have my back? I'm happy to see that the current administration has completed a survey since entering into their contracts 3 years ago. My question would be, what is the problem? What's the solution? And can your chief executive execute? My wife is a nurse practitioner, has been in the nursing world for 28 years. Nursing and teaching are very similar in several ways. The majority of them are females, and their pay is terrible. But she loves what she does. The administrators used to be nurses, but seem to have forgotten why they became nurses in the first place. The mass exiting of nurses and teachers in the past 5 years are almost identical down to the percentages. It's not about money, it's about being valued. For an example, after 25 years of my wife working for the same employer, she was given a pin and handed a plaque for them being thankful for her 25 years. As for being able to recruit students and also to be able to retain students, my question would be, where did all the students go? Why did they leave? And then do you have somebody that can execute and be able to find the solution to the problem? Thank you, guys. Hope you all have a great Christmas. Happy New Year.
Thank you for the comments. All right, we'll move on to item 8. If you would, please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve. Thank you for each of these people here giving their hearts, their time, their talents to serve the students, families, administrators, and teachers of our school district. Thank you for the parents who come to support. Lord, I pray for this holiday season, for safe travels for each of our families here in the district and abroad. We pray for all those in need, and we just ask you to just help us discern with hearts of service tonight. In Christ's name, amen. All right, item 9 is notification items. You have those in your book. Item 10 is our consent agenda. I would ask if anyone has anything they would like pulled for review, and if not, then I would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda as presented. Anything anybody wants to pull?
Move to approve as presented.
So moved, Jason James. Second, Mark Wheelis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 11 tonight is our legislative subcommittee update. Our legislative chair is Jason James. Jason, do you have an update for us?
Yes, we do. Pull those up.
Thanks, Barrett. We did have another meeting with the subcommittee last week, and it was really just covering what we've learned since the election, starting to get a little bit of a lay of the land on what the leadership in the new Texas legislature that's going to convene in early January or middle January, the 89th session. And it's interesting, we're still waiting to see who the new speaker is going to be. There's there were some meetings last night, or last weekend, I think a week or two ago, with the caucuses. So there was some news and headlines that came out of that, but we still don't know who the new speaker is going to be with any kind of, definitely not absolute. So once that's determined at the beginning of the session, then the committees will be formed and chairs will be named, and we'll know a lot more at that point. Next slide. So we have started talking to our local representatives and sharing with them the legislative priorities that we recently approved. Next slide. So these are some of the things that we have been working on, kind of a comprehensive list of the different engagements that we as a board and we as a subcommittee, different things we've been doing. Most recently, we've met with different leaders locally. We went, Jeff and Barrett and I attended an event in Allen that was sponsored by the Allen Fairview Chamber. Representatives Leach and Pressa and Noble were in attendance and kind of outlined for us what they believe is going to be topics during the next legislative session. Then after that, we had a follow-up meeting with Kyle Jacobson, who's the CEO of the Allen Fairview Chamber of Commerce, and talked about different areas of where we could coordinate as a district and find common ground with business leaders in the community, where I think we've had great success partnering with a lot of the businesses in the community, but I think there's additional areas where we could continue to work in that regard as well. That Allen Fairview Chamber shared with us their state legislative priorities, and there was a lot of overlap in the areas of education, so that was good to see. So I think we have the opportunity to really partner with not only other school districts around, but other groups like the chamber where they could be advocates for us as well, which is great to hear. So we're really working to continue to develop those relationships with other leaders in the community, businesses, groups like the chamber, our legislators, and finding where there's common ground and sharing those priorities so that we can be prepared to, as that next session starts, have positive conversations. We always want to throw out our local representatives if people want to share with them our priorities. And again, we adopted those priorities with the idea this year that everybody in the community, all the parents and families, can find areas within the priorities that are personal to them, where they can share those personal stories of where whether it's extracurricular activities or very specific programming areas where we could use additional support to continue that legacy of excellence here.
Any questions from board for Jason, myself, or Jeff? Thank you, Jason. Item 12 tonight is an attendance update for 24 and 25. Dr. Zambezi.
Good evening, members of the board. Superintendent Cordell, thank you so much for having me tonight. Going to take a look at our December 5th snapshot, 2024-2025 attendance rates by campus, and then at the bottom there, the district attendance rates. So right now, Puster 97.4, Hart 96.9, Sloan Creek 97.2, Willow is 96.9, Lovejoy High 96.4, and Lovejoy ISD is currently sitting at that December 5th snapshot at 96.8%. And the numbers in parentheses is the subtraction from state funding if the kids would have, like 100% of them would be here. So that's the loss. Next up, wanted to highlight some things that our schools and our administrators and teachers are doing for our kids. And so one thing we have a lot of conversations about is attendance and tracking that and talking about our internal and external processes, but also talking about attendance incentives for our students to feel that connection to school and to be attending school. So recently, Hart and Puster have been offering attendance incentives throughout the fall semester. Hart's all-day, everyday incentive allowed classes turned book tokens, and then Puster announces weekly winners through announcements and highlights the grade level with the highest attendance rate during Puster Pride, their morning assembly and their 9 weeks assemblies. Going up to talk about Willow and Sloan Creek, Willow recently rewarded over 500 students with an ice cream treat during lunch for having no unexcused absences from October 21st to November 15th. And they handed out the ice cream to students based on their ROAR acronym, responsibility and ownership, and they tied that back to attendance. And so those pictures down there are actually from the ice cream day from Willow. And then also ongoing talks between our campuses. Willow Springs is partnering with Sloan Creek by sharing their campus attendance incentive plan for the year. They're hoping that vertical alignment continues to raise attendance rates, and was just talking with one of the Sloan Creek administrators, and they actually received a donation from one of our local fast food chains for their upcoming stuff. So just a really cool example of the proactiveness and the education standpoint, and our administrators also working together to ensure our students are getting those incentives.
I don't have a comment, but I would like to say thank you to the administration and staff, the team. The strategic focus, to me, one of the best measures of our health from our culture perspective is the fact that kids want to be in school. And from where we started with this administration several years ago to where we are today, to move the needle as much as we have from 93 to 95 to a 96.5 to 97.5 is a really big number. Historically, being on the board, watching our budgets and our trends with attendance being in the lower 90s versus the higher 90s, there's probably not enough that can be said about the culture environment and the fact that you put a focus on it and the kids want to be here. So thank you for the hard work in regards to attendance. It makes a huge difference. It makes a difference in our budget, but it's a function of our overall health, I believe, and our culture. So thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Zambezi? All right, item 13 is a presentation for the Bond Planning Committee update. Mr. Percival.
Good evening. I just wanted to provide a quick update on the Bond Planning Committee's work, kind of where we've been and where the committee's headed. Back on November the 19th, meeting number 2 was hosted here in the cafeteria at LCDC. And the 2 main topics for that meeting were we went through a demographic presentation to look at historical, current, and projected enrollment as a district. We also looked at some factors that are variables whenever you're looking at demographic data. And then we went through some data that was derived from a facility needs assessment. And then this past Saturday was meeting 3. During meeting 3, we had the ability and opportunity to do some facility tours here in the district. Those tours started out over at Hart Elementary School. So our committee members all met up at Hart about 8:30. We had a light breakfast, toured the campus. From there, we loaded up onto a school bus, went over to transportation and maintenance, did a quick tour of the the transportation facility, the transportation lot where we house our school buses. And then from there, we loaded the bus, went over to the high school, and went through a pretty comprehensive tour of that campus, both interior and exterior. And so these photos are from the November 19th meeting, where we went through that demographic data and the facility needs. And then this is where we started over at Hart. This is a classroom where you'll see Principal Acosta. She looks very intent right there. She's kind of walking us through a classroom and some of the challenges that our teachers work through and problem solve through on the daily in respect to environment, furniture, and just some of the nuances from a teacher perspective. This is outside of Hart, where we had an opportunity to walk outside, look at the facility that students access during the day. We had an opportunity to, from afar, look at the septic system over there that is 25 years of age and end of life, and looked at some of the general erosion and conditions of the campus there on that east side. From there, we loaded the bus, as I mentioned before. We actually had a committee member that was their very first time on a school bus. And so he was from the UK, so he was very excited. Said that they didn't have school buses where he grew up, and so he was pretty excited about that opportunity. Went over to transportation. This is an inside shot of the transportation facility. That's the shop area. And so you can kind of see the current condition in there. And then over to the high school from there. This is out front where we talked about some of the challenges with erosion. We talked about the geothermal well fields that we have there in and around that campus, and some needed maintenance that ties in with not only the wells, but also the water source heat pumps that the wells service to provide HVAC heating and cooling for that school. And this is back in the fine arts wing. This is actually the orchestra room. This room was not designed to be an orchestra room. It was actually a receiving area at one point. And so we popped in there just so that we could kind of look at some opportunities if we were looking at current state and ideal state, and really looking at some of those challenges and maybe what we could do differently in the long term to help alleviate some of those pain points. And then this is from meeting 2. This is a fast fact sheet that is provided at the end of each meeting. And so these are just kind of 5 highlighted areas that we went through that night during meeting 2. We talked about some of our overall square footage and some of the facility planning that's gone on. Whether we're campus educational adequacy assessment data that's been shared throughout the process. We also looked at kind of the fact that, Lovejoy is a destination district, but we need to keep as a committee, we need to know where we're at in that continuum, and then also looking at enrollment. As mentioned earlier in the meeting, there's definitely a direct correlation, as Dr. Zambezi mentioned, between not only enrollment but also attendance when we're looking at how we're funded. The next meeting will be tomorrow night. That meeting was originally scheduled to be hosted here at the LCDC cafeteria. Based on feedback from several community members during the tour on Saturday, they would like to, since they saw Hart, they would like to see Puster. And so we're going to make that available to them at 5:15 tomorrow for any committee member that would like to come up before the scheduled meeting and do a tour of Puster. We're going to have a tour at 5:15, and then we'll host our meeting tomorrow night at Puster at 6 p.m. instead of here at LCDC. During that time together, we will cover project priorities. and then the committee will be presented with a project priorities worksheet as a homework assignment. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
I can just add my thoughts, because Marvin and I attended the facilities tours. And I just wanted to thank you for putting together such a thorough tour. I thought it was really interesting for me, because of course my kids are in those schools, but to watch the community members go through and understand how we're using the space and some of the challenges and that sort of thing. I definitely saw some eyes get big when they saw the concrete raise it up off the ground, separated by rebar. You know, the erosion in our playgrounds, and the septic being that old is crazy, as well as HVAC at almost every campus. So I think that really made it real for them as far as what are some of the opportunities that we have as a district. So thank you for putting that together. I thought that was meaningful.
Thank you, and you know, a shout out to the committee for coming out on a Saturday, for taking time away from their families. Busy schedules this time of year, and so they've really leaned into this process, and I'm very thankful to have them working through this collaboratively.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next is our staff survey, Ms. Koenig.
Good evening, and I'm here to share our fall staff survey that we've just completed. I'm going to go over and kind of give you a little bit of how that was conducted and some information. Basically, as far as conducting, we visited all the campuses and many of the departments, transportation, LCDC, administration here, and went over and did an explanation of what the survey was and how that was going to be administered. We opened the survey window up November 4th and closed it on the 18th. It was completed through a third-party administrator, so it's completely anonymous. We used what they call Survey Hero to do that, and we administered it to the entire staff here in Lovejoy. We felt really good about our participation rate. We had 56%, so 278 people completed the survey. And we had a 4-point scale, with 1 being strongly agree, 2 being agree, 3 being disagree, and 4 being strongly disagree. But don't worry, I'm going to show you as we get through there how that's listed on the different pages. This is how it was reported back. I'm going to go through and break that down. As you can see, the green is the mean, and of course the blue is the standard just deviation there. But we're going to go through each of those comments one by one. There were 2 areas with a mean or average below above 2.0, and so that means it was between agree and disagree, okay? And of course, the first one was I have the resources, materials, and supplies, technology, tools, etc., to do my best job. It had a mean of 2.14, so it was close to the 2.0, but this information is really telling us we want to do what's best. We want to improve, and that was an area that we need to address there. The second one was the district student code of conduct is consistently and fairly enforced, with a mean of 2.1. So also very close there between, very close to agree, but between disagree and agree. And that's something else that we have tackled. In fact, we worked on that today with our principals of what we can do to help support that student code of conduct and work with our teachers there. Some of the other areas that receive between agree and strongly agree are listed. I have positive relationships with people I work with. The mean was 1.38. That was one of the most positive things that came out of the survey, and it was very fortunate, made all of us feel great where we worked here, because during the survey, when you look at the comments, it was about people, and that's what we are about here, is about people. My contributions are valued. A mean was 1.76. So strong there. People at my school or work care about me, had a mean of 1.59. The school or department inspires me to do my best work, mean was equal to 1.67. And at this school or in my department, there's a strong feeling of trust among staff, with a mean was 1.79. So also something that was very, very important. And it's important to me to point out, when you do a staff survey, that's really what we're trying to do, is build trust, where people are honestly can give us some feedback and areas of things that we're doing well and things that we need to improve on. Other things we asked about that received a mean between agree and strongly agree was I feel safe at school or work, was a mean 1.14, and that some people took that as with security. Other people felt like that was risk-taking, that they could do in their courses and in the classrooms. I feel supported by my principal supervisor. It was a mean of 1.44, which I thought was also positive. In our comments, we see that many of our supervisors were spoken very positively, so we were excited about that. I feel supported by district leaders, superintendent and cabinet members, had a mean of 1.88. I am given appropriate assistance to resolve student disciplinary conflicts, had an average or a mean of 1.83, and I would recommend this school or district, had a mean of 1.69. So that's what the mean or the average was on each of those questions. That small print at the very beginning. We also we asked the question, what suggestions do you have for improvement in Lovejoy ISD? And these are just some themes that came out that we definitely want to work on and improve and grow from. One was discipline, and that was things just from cell phones being out or dress code and some of those types of things were mentioned in the comments. Another was processes and efficiencies, making sure that we're not redundant in those. I know in many departments, making sure we're not filling out the same forms over or collecting, the data that we have to enter sometimes for different reporting and that type of things. But processes and efficiencies, I feel like we're moving on that, but that takes some time to do. Staff compensation, benefits, retention incentives, we group those types of together. So we continue to look at that. We know we have a limited budget, but that's something that we continue to review every year. And there, technology and building upgrades, there was quite a lot of feedback or comments about that, about technology and building upgrades. Lots of suggestions, especially when it came from like HVAC, technology. I know there are some places in the high school where you don't get cell phone coverage, those types of things. Professional development, that's an area that I know we have been working on the past several years. This year we used it more was on campus professional development, but we always do surveys from that and want to do where it is pretty much very intentional to the person. And that's hard to do when you have a lot of people in a lot of positions. We're trying to provide professional development for clerical and bus drivers, but also our teachers and administrators, but working on that. Curriculum resources, input and advanced review, making sure that they have the resources they needed because our teachers are there and aides are in front of our students, but that they're there, they have input on those, and they have advanced review where they can review those before they're having to do before they're having to introduce the concepts to students. And I know we've been working on the Planet unit guides, and those takes time to develop there too. Smaller class sizes, of course, that's something that we definitely want to, that we want to address as much as we can. We also know that our per pupil allotment has not been raised since 2019, and that impacts our staffing. More planning time and workload. I think this comment came out because we've gone from a 6 to 8 period at the middle school and high school to a 6 of 7 period, so the planning time has changed somewhat. Our principals, we talked with them. They are doing some things. We're trying to give more planning time to our teachers, working around leopard time where teams can plan or having a double conference time. Also, our teacher extended planning days, trying to address those, but that came up. And support for maintaining student expectations with parents, but supporting our teachers as they work through concerns or issues with our parents there. Okay. There are also some things that were going well. Throughout the comments, all of them mentioned our students and how great our students were. And I know earlier we saw our a cappella choir, we see our Lovejoy visual arts. I mean, what our kids are doing are just, it's unbelievable. And just I feel fortunate and have a lot of pride in that myself, that our kids are doing really well and our teachers recognize that. Professional learning communities, or PLCs, were mentioned throughout the survey, giving that time for collaboration and working with teams. Positive culture or work environment, team collaboration, that all kind of goes together. And that was one thing that I think stood out more than anything, was just our teams depending on each other, working together. They like who they work with, those type of things was very positive. Support from coworkers, teammates, administrators, community. Getting the right people in the right spots and providing that support from them. They also, a lot of them were talking sense of community. They feel like this is a community. We have 5 campuses and feels like just a little city in there, but sense of community was important. We saw improvements being made with communication and discipline. So we may not be there yet, but we're moving in the right direction, I felt, from those comments. Other things, district staff on campus supporting planning and teaching was something else that was very positive. As y'all recall, we have mentioned where our coordinators are out on campuses 3 days a week. I know Kelly Cowan is at the high school, Michelle Riddle, we have MTSS supports, those types of things. But seeing people, or MTSS supports are based on campuses, but having those people out on campus and supporting planning and teaching and learning there was also something that was very supportive. We're going to continue to do what we need to do. We want to be highly responsive to this. After we did go out and explain that we were doing the survey and let everyone know it was anonymous, we want to hear you, we want to improve. We went back and we shared, did this, basically this presentation. And of course, we shared all the comments with our staff too, so that they were aware of what was in the survey and wanting to build our trust there as much as we can and let them know that they are supportive. So a survey is great. It tells us things that we're doing well, but it also gives us opportunities to improve. And that's truly what we want to do, is we want to improve. So I felt good about the response and the participation, and also the comments were very, very helpful too.
Thank you, Ms. Koenig. Board, do you have any questions for Ms. Koenig about the staff survey?
I just wanted to add, I'm so thrilled that we did this. Thank you for putting that together. I think it really lives our values that we held as the community as part of our district priorities, that we're going to support our staff. And so to listen to them in such a transparent way and to take that feedback into account, I think is critical for us moving forward. So I appreciate that. Could you talk to us a little bit more about after you got the results?
Yes.
And you went and you met with the campuses to get some more
Yes, so
details?
actually, after we went back, I know Dr. Tinsley and Katie Cordell went and met with all the elementary teams, team by team, met with them, provided feedback and support of, what can we do helpful. So it was in a small group setting, and from what I understand, they received some really great feedback there. And also, I think there's a plan to do that moving forward to Sloan Creek Middle School and the high school. So as we do that, I think that gives us an opportunity, because we have a spring semester, to basically clarify. I think there's some miscommunication, or there were some things where people, some assumptions that really weren't there that we just needed to clean up and we weren't aware of. And I also know that some people, they don't want to speak in a group, and so those or small group or one-on-one, that process gave them another opportunity to share their concerns without, being signaled out or feeling embarrassed, but an opportunity to answer questions there. So I felt that was pretty responsive too of us. We kept some notes there too of some other things, and just also working with our campus administrators on how we can help support them and those items.
From a process standpoint, it was important for us to meet with the staff ahead of time, to let them
Yes.
know what we were doing, why we were doing that, in terms of implementing a survey, and very much appreciate the time and energy they put into thoughtfully filling it out. Once we had the survey results, we went and met with each campus, all of the staff on that campus, so that we were able to share this presentation that Anna has shared tonight, discuss both the areas for improvement, the areas of strength and celebration, and then talk about our responsive actions as well. And as Anna mentioned, we took an additional layer at our elementary school. In addition to meeting with the staff of both Hart and Puster as a group, we also met with each grade level team, K through 4 as well. So we're excited to use this feedback for growth, improvement, and then also to reinforce, celebrate, and continue to put resources and energy into the areas that are of value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say surprised, because I know the state of our facilities, but it was interesting to see how many teachers talked about how the buildings or the technology impacted teaching our kids. So that was pretty surprising. But I think the most important thing about these surveys is to follow up with all the teachers and all the administrators about things we can improve on, just to close the loop. Because the last thing we want to do is get information from a survey
And not do
do
anything.
anything with it.
I agree.
And-
And we'll continue, I know, for the spring, we do stay interviews and things like that. So we'll continue.
Well, I was going to say thank you on behalf of the board to the admin, the teachers, and the staff for taking the time to do it, spending the time filling it out in great detail.
Yeah.
I can tell everyone cares about this team and this school district, because Everyone took time to participate. The participation rate was extremely high. And in my experience running company, staff surveys usually are filled with the people that aren't as happy, and this one wasn't. It was overwhelmingly filled with responses from everyone, and the overall results were a good indicator of, again, the work we've done, the culture that's resonating, and the actions being taken immediately after that to help address things goes more to our continuous improvement mindset. So thanks to everyone, the team, for doing all of this, and the work that was put in, and thanks for delivering a nice report to us so we can understand it and see it.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
All right. Item 15 is consider and act on the 25-26 school calendar.
Okay, I'm going to ask Dr. Zambezi up here to come up in case there's any questions. Just wanted to talk with you about developing the school calendar. I know we talked about this at our last meeting and the November meeting, but wanted to review just what our requirements are and go through that. Of course, instructional minutes, number one, is highest priority. We have 75,600 minutes that we have to get that we have to be in front of students. Some other requirements that we have are 2 bad weather makeup days. TEC code, section 21.401 tells us our teachers have to be on a 187 contract. That's there in code. And then, of course, we also have to follow our student attendance accounting handbook, the SAW requirements, and we know those change every year and late in the year. As y'all recall, some of those examples were from, we have CTE minute requirements. We had funding for scholars that we had to change after school started, where we had to determine if we were going to do per pupil allotment or if we were going to do tuition. This year, something that impacted us was we needed 5 teacher professional development days, and those days have to occur after the first day of instruction and before the last day of instruction. So just some things to keep in mind as we develop that. We also we take considerations, and we wanted a calendar we felt similar to what we had this year, the 24-25 calendar. We look at when the first day of instruction starts. We try to do it 45 days, thinking back 45 days prior to the first day of instruction, because we know that there is a penalty phase with our teachers. So once that we get into the 45 days before the first day of instruction, they're fairly locked into our contract. And we've experienced that before, where we were a little bit delayed there. We also talked to Collin County College because we want our kids to have a spring break. And this next, for 2026, it's March 16th through the 22nd, and a holiday, they have a holiday break April 3rd through the 5th, which is the Easter holiday. April 3rd is that Good Friday. And looking at balancing the semester. So in this calendar that we're recommending, there's 80 in the fall and 84 in the spring. And of course, Dr. Z, graduation date, May 23rd, 2026. It's super, super early. And from what I understand, we have a contract with Allen Event Center on that Saturday of graduation. And so we back up to that. I don't think any senior would want to come back after graduation. And we have opportunities for people for different groups and others to give us feedback. So we go through a process. So first we kind of create the draft calendar, and it's like the basics of the base. And then we can kind of figure out, what we work with. So we review that calendar. We share it with our cabinet, principals, district leadership. They go back and look at their requirements also, and then we kind of revise it from there. And then, of course, we shared it with you all on November 18th. And then we go take it back through our district meeting. So we did our community meeting, which was our district improvement team meeting. We did our teacher superintendent connection council. We did PTO roundtable, parents there. And then we went back and shared it with every campus also to provide feedback there. And then we kind of drafted again from feedback and revised it. And then I go back and I count every single minute, every single day, all of that type of stuff that we got the requirements in to make sure that we're not missing it, and then we revise it. People don't know this, but we actually have after we develop the student calendar, we have to do the 187 teacher calendar, and then we have like 23 other calendars of work calendars to develop. So we just want to make sure it's all aligned and meeting the qualifications. So this is our draft calendar for the 25-26 school year. As you can see, this has The first day of school starting August 7th, and that was very much intentional. Parents liked it, seemed, or teachers like it, kind of gets you in where you're building relationships with kids, you're working on procedures, those types of things. This also includes a full week of fall break, October 13th through the 17th. And then the Leopard Friday is October 24th. We did that very purposefully. It's later, it's maybe cooler in the year there. And we know now, because it's the second UIL, we,
Second year of our district, so we can proactively plan, whereas if it's a redistricting year, it's kind of hit or miss when you're making the calendar because you don't have that data that soon.
the other thing is the last day of school would be May 22nd, and graduation, of course, May 23rd. Just some of the general feedback, as I said, was midweek start date. That was positive with parents and teachers. We also looked at maximizing instruction time. Like, we know August 29th, we have a football game in,
That's most likely going to be that Lubbock
Cooper
Cooper
game.
game. This year they came to us, and so if you look at the calendar, that's probably going to be where those kiddos and our staff members are traveling out to Lubbock Cooper, and so that made a lot of sense there to have that Friday as a remote day.
It's a teacher extended planning day for our staff that's working, but we also know we're going to have fine arts probably out and athletics out that day. November 21st was a day that was very similar. Our volleyball plays in state tournament that weekend before a lot of times, and that's usually that weekend, but also looking, and then if we are in the football state playoffs, we might be up in the Panhandle that same day. So we're really trying to maximize instructional time with those days. And then looking at attendance and some of that's December 19th was another day. That full week of fall break, October 13th through 17th. And of course, as we mentioned, we have to have 5 teacher professional development days between the first day of instruction and the last day of instruction. So those are those days listed, and that had also in here was the 8 teacher planning days, which was mentioned there. Questions about our calendar for us?
Did we take into account the dual credit? Because I know it was last year or the year before, there was an issue with the number of minutes.
I think that was CTE. Yes. Yeah, we looked at that closely. That goes back to our SAW, yes, sir. Yeah, we did. We looked at that closely. We've shared this calendar. Like I said, Fine Arts has looked at it. Every program, every person in the district we have shared it with and provided feedback with them. And what was interesting is we're hearing the same feedback over and over, so it didn't make it really difficult because everyone had the same ideas.
And just for clarification, so this is the same bell schedule that we would
Correct.
have for the current year?
Yes.
And this is preserving as best as you can the teacher planning days that we
Yes.
put into place?
Yes.
Wonderful. And I just wanted to say thank you on this as well. I know this is probably a thankless task.
Oh,
to
my
do the
gosh.
calendar, and but I really appreciate how much feedback that you were open to around the community. That was really helpful.
Well, thank you. It was fun. And of course, we always like to go on campuses. We get to be with people. So that was nice.
Any other questions? If not, I'd consider a motion to approve as presented.
Make a motion to approve the calendar as presented.
Second.
So move Mark Wheelis, second Julie McLaughlin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to let Thomas do the next one.
All right, item 16, consider and act on the Director of Business Development. Ms. Koenig. Business Services, I'm sorry. Word.
Okay, good evening, and I'm going to take over for Ms. Koenig here, and we are super excited to present our recommendation for Mrs. Amber Pennell to be approved as the Director of Business Services. This is an existing position that was vacated right before the Thanksgiving break. So we're excited that that Ms. Pennell had expressed an interest so quickly, and that we can present it here for approval tonight, or for you to consider for approval tonight. So Amber comes with 19 years of experience in Texas school finance. She is currently the CFO in Salina ISD, and she was previously the CFO in Farmersville, and then business manager at Whitewright ISD. So she brings a wealth of knowledge in accounting, budgeting, planning, and audit preparation. And I believe that she's going to bring her expertise and leadership that's going to really take our team to the next level. So I'm really excited to be able to have her, to present her here tonight for your recommendation.
questions? Motion?
When do you, when would you anticipate her start date being that she's currently the CFO in Salina?
Yeah, great question. So right now, it is the first week of February with, we have worked with the district and their current superintendent to allow her to come 1 day a week in January to help support with our transition while she continues to support with their transition.
Do we have this amount budgeted for the rest of the year?
We do, yes. Like I mentioned, this is a current position that's in the budget that was recently vacated, so she's just filling a vacated position.
Sounds like a great asset to add to your team here.
Yes.
So congratulations on finding such a good candidate.
Yes, thank you.
I move that we approve Ms. Pinnell as the new Director of Business Services.
Second. So move, Marvin Bobo, second. Jeff Wood, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, next up, consider and act on the school marshal resolution. Mr. Percival.
So sticking with the trend of enhancing teams, we would like consideration be given tonight to act on the school marshal resolution for Phil Anderton. The updated resolution would be pending Marshal Anderton's successful completion of the required 80-hour marshal course. He's projected to successfully complete those course requirements by end of day tomorrow. I'll go into a little bit more detail in my cabinet update about Mr. Anderton. But tomorrow will be day 8. That's an 8-day, 10-hour per day class that he's currently attending in Abilene. And so he'll finish up tomorrow. He'll come back. As soon as he brings his credentials back from that training, we'll send those off to the state, to TCOLE. And as soon as TCOLE issues his license, then he will have the ability to carry while he's here at work and on campuses. And so what this would do would prevent any downtime or turnaround time for him to be equipped the way he needs to be as an armed marshal here within the district. So as soon as we get that license back, which will most likely happen over the break, that would give him the ability to be armed when we return, or when he returns on January the 6th. And of course, all of this would be pending successful completion and Austin and TCOLE sending his license here, we receiving it in district.
Which campus is he planning on being at?
That's a great question. So Marshal Anderton will be over at Willow Springs Middle School.
And this is the replacement of an existing marshal, is that correct?
That's correct,
In the
yes.
budgeted item. Okay, thank you.
So approval of this tonight will allow him to carry between January 6th and whenever our next board meeting would be. So we're just kind of pre-approving that so that he's able to hit the ground running in January.
Absolutely. That's a great clarifier. So this would prevent us from coming back and either A, calling a special session, or B, delaying the fact that he could be armed while at work and on duty between now and the January scheduled board meeting.
So the resolution as written, does it have language pertaining to the pending requirements? Or is there anything, if we are to make a motion, do we need to reference those pending requirements? What do you recommend on that?
All of the language is, we did work with the attorney, and all the language is within the resolution itself that's specific to Marshal Anderton and this specific situation of his pending course completion.
I thought I saw that. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything additional that we needed to reference there. Okay. Yeah, with that, I move to approve the attached resolution regarding School Marshal Phil Anderton as written.
Second. So moved, Jason James. Second, Jeff Wood. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, item 18, we are going to open a public hearing on the Financial Accountability Rating System, School First. At this time, I will open the public hearing regarding the Financial Accounting Rating System School First. Ms. Taylor, do we have any public comment, any public hearing comments at this time?
No, sir.
Cabinet members, you may proceed with your presentation.
So, good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Cordell. So tonight, we are presenting on the school district first rating. So the school first is the state's school financial accountability rating system. And the first is designed to ensure that Texas public schools are held accountable for the quality of their financial management practices. So tonight, we will review the 23-24 rating, which is based on the financial data resulting from the audit of the 22-23 year. So under the school first, every Texas school district is required to prepare and distribute an annual financial management report and hold a public hearing within 60 days of TEA issuing the final reports to review the results and to provide an opportunity for comments. TEA did release the final reports in mid-November, so we posted all the requirements for this public hearing and met the compliance component of that and holding it within the 60 days. We do have, for the community that members that are here today, we do have the annual financial management report right here. So if you'd like a copy of it, feel free to come on up and grab that. Okay, so the first rating consists of 3 different indicators, which are critical indicators, solvency, and then financial competence, which then lead to one of the 4 ratings, rating from an A at superior achievement, a B above standard achievement, C meet standard achievement, and F substandard achievement. So when we look at the different indicators, there are 21 indicators. So this is a change from previous years. There used to be 20 indicators, and now they've added a new one, and I'll reference that once we get there. So of the 21, 10 are scored on a pass or fail, and then the 11 are on a point scale. So 9 of the 11 indicators are rated 1 through 10, and then the last 2 are 1 to 5. And then the summation of those 11 indicators results in a score that give you the rating of the A through F here. Now, as it relates to the 10 pass or fail, that does, if you do fail any one of those 10 indicators, it does result in a ceiling at which you can score. So for instance, on one of them, if you fail, it will indicate that the max you can get is 95. So even if you score 100 on the 11, if you fail one of the 10 indicators, the max you would be able to get is 95. So the first 5 indicators here are associated with the critical indicators. So this is really just reporting. So when we look at the first one is, did we complete our annual financial report and submit it within the 30 days of the deadline? So because we're at June 30th fiscal year end, we have to submit ours on November 27th, which is why we present our audited financials in October for you to, for the board to consider and act on and approve on the financial audit to make sure we meet that deadline on the 27th. And then based off of the audit, the unmodified opinion and the AFR, and then did we meet the compliance of payment terms of all of our debt obligations? So we passed all 5 of these indicators, and this is nothing changed from year over year. So last year, the 21-22, we passed all these indicators. The one exception of a change was in indicator 4. So we passed indicator 4 in 21-22, but there was, we failed what was the ceiling. So we did have a payment hold associated with 1 month of payment towards our pay to the comptroller for our sales tax. So whenever we hold a fundraiser and generate revenue that exceeds the expenditure of it, we're required to pay sales tax on that. So we have to report that. And due to the transition at the time in 21-22, we missed a month that caused us. So we passed, but yet the ceiling we failed. But in 22-23, we corrected that and we passed both the indicator and the ceiling. So the next 9 indicators here are associated with solvency. So most of this is tied to looking at our balance sheet and, the fund balance over the 3 years. Our fund balance, we have exceeded 75 days of operational expense, so that hasn't changed from 21, 22 to 22, 23, so we passed that. And then the rest, 7 through 10, nothing has changed year over year on these. When we look at indicator 8, this is more of looking at our current assets to current liabilities, this is one of 2 indicators on the scales of 1 to 10 and 1 through 5, where we did not maximize the points. So this essentially is that it just looks at our current assets and the current liabilities, which are due within 1 year, and if we can cover that. So when we look at this indicator in particular, and we look at, since we've completed our 23-24 audit, we can have a good sense of where we think we're going to land next year. So in this indicator, we can anticipate that we're going to increase this from a 4 to a 6. A lot of that has to do with just our current liabilities. Our debt service, you can see it goes down over time. So we're going to have, our current liabilities are going to be lower, but we also, our current assets and our cash and cash investments have increased quite a bit because of the sale of the bonds. So when we look at this current ratio, it looks at the district-wide financial statements. So it takes into consideration M&O, INS, capital projects, special revenue. So with the cash balance of the bonds impacting our overall cash, it's going to help with this ratio and increase our ratio by 2.
What was it the year before?
The year before, it was a 4 out of 10.
And then I know on 8 and 11, we talked about this last year. I think Mr. Owens asked, what are they looking for us to be higher than 4 out of 10, that we have all this cash on hand and we just don't spend it on actual education?
Yeah, I think it goes back to when I really look at it, most of it is the bond proceeds that gives you a lot of cash on hand that helps with that. But yeah, I think when you're looking at this, it's really looking at the cash on hand and the investments. 11 is more of total assets, so it's ensuring that you have total assets just to your long-term liabilities. But again, I think it really has to do with the cash balance. Now, when we look at, and we'll get to indicator 11, but also looking at, when you look at 11 and look at 12, the big challenge for a district like us, so our highest debt service payment is due in February, and you're not allowed to carry a large cash balance in INS. But our INS, all of our liabilities stems from the INS side. So we have high liability, short-term liability, and then the long-term liabilities all fall within INS. So it's expected that the rest, the M&O, the bond proceed, the capital and special revenues assets are offsetting that.
We're doing really well right now because of the work that the administration has done to build the fund balance and the fact that we have the bond proceeds. But we would anticipate that to fluctuate over time as we utilize bond proceeds to maintain our facilities or those types of things.
Yeah, that is correct.
I think it's a really poor indicator for a school district, because the only real way you can improve this is to issue more debt and let it sit and not spend it. It's a really misleading thing to judge a school district on in this regard. It does not compare to the current ratio in a corporation and how you would manage your financials, which I think is what their intent is, to try and create some level of transparency, benchmarking against corporate finance. And it's very misleading.
Or if you increase your net assets and basically by not spending the money on education, basically.
So the final 4 indicators here for solvency. So we spoke a little bit about indicator 11, very similar to 8. So here we scored 4 out of 10, and again, very similar because of the cash balance on the bond proceed sides and the payments. We can anticipate this will increase next year from a 4 to a 6. And then the other change year over year from 21-22 to 22-23 is indicator 12. So this is just the correlation between future debt requirements and the district's assessed property value. So we score 10 out of 10 here, so just indicating that our assessed property value and the tax collections that we collect annually from that to support our debt scored high and scored 10. So this was an increase from an 8 to a 10 this year.
Thank you for your, is that your complete your presentation?
No, I'm sorry, we have the competence indicators. So we're,
I missed that slide, sorry.
Now you
No,
gotta
you're-
wrap it up,
You're
don't
good.
you?
We just have a few more. So here is just the competency indicators. So indicator 15 was not graded in this year. This is just tied to, so every 2 years, districts are required to submit their biannual enrollment projections, pupil projections. And then based off of your submission, they would grade you to see how close you were. And then just due to COVID and the enrollment projections being all over the place across the state, they've decided to put a hold on this for now. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be on hold going forward. And then the last ones are just, ensuring that we submit our PEIMS data on time. And then the variances are within or less than 3% on the expenditure functions. So nothing changed here from 21, 22 to 22, 23. Sorry, I said last 7. So the one they added was here, indicator 21, which is if the school district receive an adjustment repayment schedule for more than one fiscal year. So this is kind of tied back to kind of those projections. So based off of those projections, that funds your that's your cash flow and how the state will set up your payment. So this is just looking at to see did they overpay us and have to adjust our payment schedule. And here we passed this ceiling because they didn't have to adjust our schedule. So just overall standing, so we had a B rating. So it was an increase year over year from the 86 to an 88. And as I mentioned previously with the solvency ratings, I do anticipate that everything else will be the same with the exception of those 2 indicators, which would raise our score by 4 points, which would put us in the A rating for the 23-24 year. So as part of the required disclosures of the first rating, which is part of the reports here, we do have to disclose not only the financial data that we just went over, but also the current superintendent's employment contract, which is included in the report. We do have to do a summary schedule of all total reimbursements / expenditures received by the superintendent and each board member, which is also included in the report. This, even though they use the term reimbursement, it's not that we reimburse the board or the superintendent directly. It's just any means of payment for professional development and things of that nature, lodging and travel associated with that. So whether it's paid directly by the district or reimbursed to the board for those payments. And then also ask for a summary schedule of compensation or fees received by the superintendent in exchange for professional consulting and other professional services. We did not have any, but we do have it in the report listed as none. And the next 2 also, we had none, which is dollar amounts of gifts that had an economic value of $250 or more, and then a summary schedule of the dollar amount by board member for the aggregate amount of business transactions with the school district, which is none. Okay. And then here is just the breakout of the superintendent and board expenditures. Most of these are tied to SLI that occurs during the summer, the month of June. But this, I believe, also was a year where it was a legislative session, so we attended different things in Austin. That is all I have for you tonight, so happy to answer any additional questions.
Questions, board? All right. Ms. Taylor, did we receive any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I will close the public hearing. All right, next up is cabinet reports.
Good evening. I wanted to bring forward something that we have included in our district improvement plan and also our campus improvement plans. You've heard us talk about progress monitoring and systems that we have in place to monitor progress of student achievement. And so our goal here is that we say every LISD student is expected to achieve at high levels, and I want to add to that and to make a year's growth in a year's time. So you've heard me talk about that. So how do we go about doing that? We look at assessment as part of the learning process.
And this is one of the strategies. There's several strategies built into our campus and district improvement plans, but how our teams, our teachers, our campus administrators, our district staff work with progress monitoring tools to monitor student progress toward mastery of grade level priority standards. And those are the standards many times that they are tested on state assessments or assessments that are deemed appropriate for that particular grade level or course. So you've seen this many times. This is kind of what grounds us in our assessment process, and I'm going to hit a little bit more tonight about the interim assessments. When you see this visual, formative assessments, it's a part of it because that's what's more common. That's ongoing. That could be what teachers do for quick check-ins with students. It could be sometimes it's not a paper or pencil test. It's through qualitative observation data that they're seeing if the student achieves masters the skill or not. So those are daily, weekly. Interim assessments are built in to where we kind of have an opportunity to check throughout the year how our students are doing. And we always talk about we never should have surprises by the time we come to a summative assessment. So a summative assessment would be a STAR assessment, AP exams, end of course. So those would be what we would know how our students are going to perform if we're doing a good job on formative assessments and interim assessments. So these are some part of the what lifts up, and I just kind of lifted up what common formative assessments are and unit assessments. Those are all teacher created. They are not created by the district or the state. So teachers determine this based on what they're going to teach and what the outcome that they want to achieve during that particular unit or lesson that they're teaching kids. Interim assessments are MAP growth data, which we administer MAP beginning, middle, and end of the year. We'll be doing our mid-year MAP growth assessments in January, so we'll get to see what our students did, growth measures from beginning of the year to mid-year. District benchmarks, and those are developed by the district for certain courses. And that's what I want to talk about. What we've been doing recently is that our district benchmarks are kind of centered around November. So we've been spending time at the district level looking at it from the lens of, so did we assess what we were intended to teach? Was the assessment a good assessment? And are there any tweaks that we need to make? And then we go out and we meet with administrative teams and teachers to talk about the assessments and to gather feedback, how their kids are doing, what are some actions they can take to support their students, and what are tweaks that they need to make. So an example, I was recently out at one of our campuses with the administrative team and a lead teacher, and we were going over some a science assessment. And the teacher did such a great job of leading us through that process that she didn't just look at the overall percentages of how students performed overall on the assessment. She broke it down by standards, how the students performed on each standards, but she even got down to the question level. So she had gone in and even analyzed the questions on maybe why a student responded in that manner. So that was really impressive, and that's really what we want the outcome to be. And we modeled that, and we got our teachers through that process so that they can lead that charge. And again, summative assessments are what is kind of like what I call the Super Bowl. We get there, we're waiting, and again, there should not be any surprises by the time we get to this. So I just wanted to talk about the process of progress monitoring and why that's so important so that we can respond in a timely manner to meet the needs of our students. So any questions? Okay, thank you.
So real quick on finance update, some of the same that we've been going through month over month. So at the end of November, we ended the month with 131 days of cash on hand. We are starting to see a pickup in our tax collections. So we saw 1.2 million in the month of November and on the M&O side and 394 on the INS side. We typically receive the monthly balancing reports mid-month. So we have yet to receive the end of November for us to really look at and see where we are as far as collections, so the overall anticipated collections. So we'll be able to provide a deeper dive into that next month as part of the January board meeting. And then here is student nutrition. So what we saw this month, from last month, we did see a dip in participation by 0.8%, which is a change from the last few years where we kind of held steady at the roughly 32.5%, 31.5% over the last 2 years. So we're doing a deep dive to kind of understand why there is a dip in participation. We're exploring different avenues to see how we can solicit feedback on how we can improve participation at our school. So we've talked with the principals, and we look to have deeper conversations and potentially have surveys to see, what, and look at and see if there's anything in particular where we're seeing higher participation on certain meals that we're providing, and see how we can improve the participation. We did look at our expenditures, and even though the revenue's down, we do have multiple unfilled positions, and then also the food cost is down month over month as well. So we don't anticipate that we'll end with a deficit in student nutrition, and that we'll end on target, or if not a slight surplus because of the unfilled positions. That is what I have.
Okay, I am here to talk a little bit and give you a guest educator update. Currently, we have exactly 100 guest educators. We add those throughout the year, so that number is growing. These are active guest educators that are subbing pretty regularly on our campuses. We have actually 77 out of those have gone through a special education training, which we're so excited because that means they're volunteering or they're subbing in picking up jobs that are in special education, either as an aide or as a teacher. So super excited about that. Our fill rates, we compare them every year and want to know where we are there. And we were excited that from this time, from August 10th from 23 to December 7th, 23, and August 8th to December 6th, 24, we were up about 8%, 76% fill rate to 84%. So super excited about that. I do want to give a shout out to Nicole Heflin. She's our sub coordinator here, and we have campus sub coordinators, and they do an excellent job, but just helping them get through the process, and also reaching out and calling and talking them into coming into the day of. We do very well. It's the day of that are harder to fill. We did do Guest Educator Recognition Day, November 22nd, 2024. And we went out and we gave each of them a little thank you and told them how much we were appreciated, how much they appreciated them, and how much we were just so glad they were part of our team here in Lovejoy. So very honored that they work with us. And even today, a couple of our principals were talking about how great our subs were and how supportive and how they answer the call when we need them. So.
Just a quick update from support services. So back in October, we proposed that consideration be given to authorize a predetermined amount of money from the 2014 bond in the amount of $200,000 for operational and safety and security related items that needed to be addressed in an effort to reduce turnaround time and hopefully reduce disruption to either the classroom or daily operations of either a campus or the district. There are some items that are currently in the works that we're utilizing those funds for. That first item that you see there on the screen, our softball and baseball batting cages has a power source that runs underneath the softball field. Somewhere underneath the softball field, there's been a breakage in that line, which has prevented any power from being received over at baseball, softball batting cages. And so the work started on that actually today, should be wrapped up by end of day Wednesday. So we are dedicating a new power source to that area so that we have lights, machines, and that it's safe. With it getting dark as early as it does now with the time change, Kiddos really need to utilize that space, but can't because of the lighting and electrical challenges. So that should be wrapped up by end of day Wednesday. There are 8 new areas, seams that have failed over at the pool bubble. Those seams will be addressed over the shutdown for the 2 weeks where staff won't be present. You'll see that amount there. We continue to address those as they come up. But this time of year, it's very important that we have all of that buttoned up in the event that we do have any winter weather that puts extra stress on that material and those seams. And so if we did get a snow event or any type of frozen precipitation, that could cause the bubble to collapse if we don't have that buttoned up. So that work will happen during the shutdown. We're also going to have a comprehensive inspection done of Leopard Stadium, both the home and visitor side, as well as baseball, softball bleachers. And what we're looking for there are any hardware or braces, anything basically that needs to be addressed. The bleachers have been there for a number of years, and we want to make sure that we're putting our spectators in a safe position whenever we fill those stands up. And so now's a great time to have that work done. And so that will also happen. The projected completion date will be when we return on January 6th. This will be the same group that came out and did something similar to all of our basketball goals. If you'll recall, back in the summer, we had all those assessed, and so this will be the same group doing that work. And then repairs, I should put Band-Aids on there, but we've got some items over on the track surface at Leopard Stadium, and again, this is not like a comprehensive repair. This is just kind of doing some patchwork to make it safe for our kiddos as we get ready to kick off the spring track season. But we'll have both that and the pole. So we had a pole vault box that was actually designed and built in the indoor facility so that we could have our pole vaulters get in some work whenever it was the weather wasn't cooperative, or if we wanted to put on a clinic. At some point that was removed, and so when we have it's the same company that works on the track would also do the reinstallation of the pole vault box back into the indoor. So that we give them more opportunity, our pole vaulters more opportunity whenever it's either dark or the weather's not conducive. So last Thursday, this was our first big training day for our drone operators. Marshall Tomlinson, that's back there at the back, is actually one of our newest drone operators. He may want to come up and give us I'm just messing with Marshall Tomlinson. But he was actually participated in a training last week along with Lucas Fire, where it was a joint exercise that was hosted by the vendor, which is Paladine, over at the fire department. And some of the items that they covered that day were FAA guidelines, visual observer guidelines, drone as a first responder software review, and they also did some operational flights with the drone. So that was an all-day event that was hosted down there at the fire department, and there was really good feedback. The guys were really excited about their time down there and look forward to more training in the upcoming months. And then lastly, I had mentioned Phil Anderton as our newest addition to the Marshall team earlier tonight, but I wanted to show you his photo. I mentioned earlier that he's finishing up tomorrow that 80-hour training out in Abilene, so he couldn't be here tonight. We will be bringing him to a board meeting so that we can publicly welcome him. But Mr. Anderton is a resident here in the district. He's got both a middle school and he also has a senior at the high school. So he's been here for a little bit. He served 20 years in the Navy, retired from the Navy, and not only is he wrapping up that 80-hour course for the school marshal, last week he actually attended a 60-hour SWAT training. So he'll both be SWAT trained and fully marshal trained going into this weekend. So he's pretty aggressive with the training. He's ready to get it done and is ready to get in here and start serving over at Willow Springs. So we're very excited to have him, and I know his family's proud to have him here local too. Any questions that I can answer about district support services? Okay, thank you.
All right, Student Services Cabinet Report. We talk so much about the things that our kids in UIL academics, athletics, fine arts accomplish while in competition, on the field, et cetera. So tonight I wanted to take a moment and highlight the things that our programs are doing from a community service and volunteer standpoint. And so if you look at fine arts from community service and partnerships, just during the month of December, December 7th, choir participated in the Heritage Ranch Parade, which we'll get to on the next slide. December 11th, orchestra performed in the ballroom at Heritage Ranch. The 13th, choir performed at the Doubletree in Richardson. The Majestics performed on the 13th at Heritage Ranch. And choir again tonight at the LISD board meeting did a fantastic job. And Jazz Ensemble will be gracing us with their presence and doing some performances at the admin building on the 19th. And I think they were already busy with the Fine Arts Festival, right? And we are watching them go to competitions, go to UIL All-State. We're watching marching band. But then I just wanted to highlight our fine arts programs. This is just 1 month of data, but they are out with that servant leadership piece representing us in more ways than just competition. They're here partnering with the community and doing great things. Next up, join some pictures here. So choir led the Heritage Ranch parade up there with the fire truck, and then see a lot of familiar faces. You know, it's a rainy day, you're driving. I'd never been to the Heritage Ranch Parade before, but then I left that day just still smiling, and Lovejoy Baseball and Track paired up with choir and participated. The baseball team did a great job, of course, supporting, representing us well in their letter jackets, and our head coach Ryan Groh was there, but then girls track actually had a whole set of carolers. And then also they had worked on choreography the whole week. So next to the float, they were doing dances, and that loop is longer than you think out in Heritage Ranch, but just Mr. Glaze was there dressed up like an elf. Our coaches and things like that were dressed up as Santa. So just a real illustration and a really fun and special day. But I just wanted to highlight that because they really brought it and represented us well, and we had a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to continuing our participation in the Heritage Ranch Holiday Parade. And even have some more fine arts there. It was on a weekend where we had just had football the night before, and band was doing some all-state stuff, but they're really pumped up to do it next year. And after seeing it, I think it'll be a kind of a staple of our athletics and fine arts programs.
Sounds like a year-to-year competitive opportunity.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty competitive. But super proud of athletics, fine arts, and our programs who give back to the community and represent us so well. Thank you.
Thank you all for the updates tonight. Ms. Cordell, your report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Owens. I wanted to thank our fine arts team for the remarkable job that they did at the Fine Arts Festival. Our band, orchestra, choir, visual arts, theater, dance, and guard just put on remarkable performances, and I know our students worked hard over months and months to do that, and our teachers and directors did the exact same, and so we are so grateful for the leadership of those programs and the resulting performances that our entire community got to enjoy. And specifically, speaking of getting to enjoy outstanding performances, we had a cappella this evening while we enjoyed dinner together under the direction of Mr. Harris, and they were remarkable. Just when I think they can't get any better, they do. So proud of our students in that program, and we were so fortunate to get to be blessed with their talents this evening. And speaking of blessings, we hope that our students, our staff, and our community enjoys all of the blessings of this special and important season and has time with those that they love. So we'll be thinking about our entire Lovejoy community this time of year, and we hope everyone has a safe and restful winter break starting on Thursday afternoon. We're going to finish strong. The a cappella students left here earlier to go study for their semester exams. So our students have some hard work to do, but then they're going to get a nice break.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. All right, any public comments related to non-agenda items this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Just wanted to say on behalf of the board, thank you for a great beginning of the year. And we wanted to, as a board, wish our entire community a great holiday break. Hope you have a wonderful time with your family celebrating. And we wish our administration, our staff, our educators, and each of our students a wonderful, safe, restful holiday season. So thank you. And with that, we would be adjourned.